In a recent discussion on security configurations and data collection for Mac OS X, someone raised the question whether they should be collecting and using the Mac audit data. The answer is yes, but only if you're serious about security and addressing modern threats. I found very few people are familiar with the value of audit data. For example, several years ago I was looking for a gold standard for audit configurations, and I asked what the government recommended for Macs running in classified environments. It turns out that the government's recommended audit configuration for Macs handling classified data is a disaster for detecting and analyzing exploitation of user-level applications, one of the primary ways an adversary gains access to new networks or new systems. Detecting and analyzing activities of advanced persistent threats, including related malware and adversaries using stolen credentials. Detecting and analyzing insiders like Snowden, and protecting sensitive data from being read, modified, deleted, or even forged. If you are tasked with reviewing the government's recommended audit data, you will probably find nothing useful in it, and you'll be left completely frustrated. However, audit data, when done right, can be an incredibly valuable tool for maintaining the security of your network. I'm going to show you 3 simple but important pieces of information audit data can give you about the computers in your network. What programs actually ran on your computer systems, what happened to important files, and what network activity was associated with which processes. As a side note, if you are running the government recommended configuration I mentioned earlier, you cannot get any of this information I'm about to show you from your audit data. I have a system I call the Free Audit Aggregation System, or FAS, that collects at a single server detailed BSM audit data, syslog data, and process snapshots from all my systems. I have been building back-end analysis tools to extract relevant information, build profiles, and stuff this information into a second database. Currently, I have about 6,300 log files in FAS, and my analysis database covers 2 months of data. I will be showing some of the contents of that analysis database, focusing on the data from my primary workstation. Now, at the present moment, I haven't built any nice GUI front-end tools into the analysis, so this presentation will consist of SQL commands to look at the data. So let's get started. Apple's BSM audit data can tell you about all the programs executed on your system. Here we see that about 324,000 programs were executed during the 2 months analyzed. That is about 5,000 to 6,000 program executions each day. Next, let's look at how many unique programs were executed on this system. Over 1,000 different programs were run. Now I can assure you that I personally don't know how to run 1,000 different programs. I probably directly use about 30 different programs, so the vast majority of programs executed on my system are actually run behind the scenes. To get a little more insight, let's look at the most frequently executed programs. As you can see, the Bourne shell was run over 37,000 times on my system, grep over 25,000 times, awk over 12,000 times. Most of these are low-level programs, and most of the results will never directly appear on my screen. Now I am aware of some security tools that take some screenshots or even continuous videos of a user's computer screen. It is important to realize that much of what is happening on a user's computer is never apparent on the user's screen itself. The audit data lets you peer behind the monitor to see what is actually happening inside the computer itself. Perhaps even more interesting than frequently run programs are the programs that are very rarely executed. Let's take a look at some of these programs that were run only once. It turns out that about 17% of all programs executed on my workstation were only run once. Now I want to focus on a particular set of programs. These programs are named KSFetch. Let's look at the history of one of these programs. Apple's BSM audit data can tell you all the ways various programs interacted with files on your system. For example, you might want to know who read that important PowerPoint document and when. Or maybe you might want to know how a critical configuration file was changed. Here we're going to look at one of the KSFetch programs, how it got onto your system, and what happened to it. In the How column is a number indicating what a particular program did to that program file. The first program actually moves the program file into position. This is how it gets into your system to begin with. Then task-gatd reads that program. The KSFetch program is started by executing that file path. KSFetch then reads its own file path. Finally, another program deletes the ksfetch program file. Sliding over to the right, we see that it is the Google software update daemon that initially creates the program and then deletes it. Now, if we slide back over to the left, we see that all this activity takes place at the time 1:05 and 27 seconds. In fact, we need to look at the microseconds field to see any change in time at all. It turns out that the program's creation, execution, and deletion all take place in less than a half second. Now, there are security tools that take snapshots of the computer's memory and file system. If we imagine someone aggressively taking snapshots of their system every single minute, it would still completely miss the existence of this program ever being on the system. That is because the program lived on the system for the briefest of times in between snapshots. Apple's BSM Audit Data lets you fill in the gaps between these snapshots. Let's take a look at another one of those ksfetch programs that is slightly more interesting. Now, this one looks almost the same as the previous one, but it has two important distinctions. First, it lasts an entire 7 seconds on the computer, and second, it made 12 network connections. Apple's BSM Audit Data can give you a lot of detail about a process's network activity. Here's the list of the network connections made by the ksfetch process. We see that it made 12 connections to 12 different IP addresses, and all of them encrypted. In general, your network-based sensors or DLP devices may not be able to make much sense of encrypted connections. And even if your site can decrypt and re-encrypt SSL traffic, an increasing amount of legitimate software, and certainly some illegitimate software, are adding a second layer of encryption to foil SSL proxies. The BSM Audit Data can help reveal a lot of information behind encrypted network traffic. In conclusion, if you want to know about what programs actually ran on your systems, how those programs got onto your network, what processes and programs created some observed network traffic, what process and programs created, read, modified, or deleted specific files on your system, then you should collect detailed audit data. I hope that this gives you some insight into the value of audit data. Thank you.